Hello everyone, this is the Shitcoin Detective, and today let's talk a little bit about DeFi farming, what it is and what are the risks with it. So farming is when you provide liquidity to a decentralized exchange, right? So basically you lend tokens which they can use for trading. And when you do this, you get the farming token in return. Usually. It's not always. There are rules with whichever token you get. There are incentives from different blockchains to get it to use. Basically, when you are talking about the smaller farms, you always get your farming tokens. And the APR, which is basically your yearly yield, right? That can be somewhere in between 2 and 7,000%. And yeah, there have been cases where the APR was even higher for short amount of time, because when you see 7,000% people get in and the more people provide liquidity, the lower the APR will be for everyone. So yeah, you can provide liquidity to a decentralized exchange like PancakeSwap or SushiSwap, and they will pay you money for this. But what are the issues? Yeah, I tried. It's not going to be a comprehensive list. You can search this online. I'm just going to explain to you what some of the risks that you can have, as not always explained completely. So first I wanted to talk to you about the token issues, the farming token issues. You see, it's possible. The farming token is like operating like a regular token that you have, like this can be wrapped BNB or wrapped Ethereum or BUSD or anything else like that. So it can be minted. So yeah, the developer of the farm can leave the minting function in and then sell the token basically. And when this happens, arbitration bots will jump in, and basically what happens is he can drain all the money which is in these liquidity pools. They can drain all the money from this, because they just get these liquidity tokens because they press a few buttons in their computer, so they don't provide any value like you do, that you had to go to work, earn the money, you transferred it to the crypto chain, and then you provide liquidity. That is work, and their work is pushing some buttons, and they can take your money with this. So it's important to see if the exchange is safe, because you can just be, it can be a complete loss for you, right? Another issue with the farming tokens is that they are continuously minted, and they are continuously given away to the people who are providing the liquidity. And by design, a lot of these tokens basically will reach $0 value, because more and more token is made, and they're just given away for the farming, and they are selling it because they know that this is reaching to zero. The more of something there is, the less valuable that token is. One other issue which I would like to talk about is the locked tokens. You know, a few exchanges started doing this, that they don't give you all the farming tokens, but for example, they give you 5% of the farming tokens now, and the rest of the 95% can be locked for as much as a year. I've seen that happening. And when this happens, then the issue is that they can promise you a lot of APR, right? They can tell you that, oh, if you just input here your tokens, you will get those 9,000% APRs that I was talking about. But you get only 5% of the tokens right now, and the remainings you will receive later, right? And what happens is, because it's continuously minted, the price of the farming token will reach zero, and your actual APR will be much closer to 5% of the promised one, instead of high, right? So that is a problem. If you see a farm which has locked tokens, always be mindful that it can mean that your actual APR will be much lower, and you would be better off if you would take your money somewhere else. Then there could be issues with the exchanges. So it is relatively low effort to launch an exchange today. I know most of us will not be able to do this, right? But someone who is a website developer who had anything to do with cryptocurrency will be able to launch an exchange within a few days of work, because like the code for the exchange, it's available on GitHub, so they can copy that code, change a few things in it, change the names, for example, change the allocation of tokens, and then launch an exchange within a few days of work, probably even less if they are really experienced. So it's not a lot of effort, but you take risk when you put your money in. Other exchange issues, it's like if you have smart contract bugs, right, which code behaving wrong, like it's not doing what it's supposed to do. This happened, for example, with Pancake Bunny or Yam Finance. That Yam Finance was, I think, $500 million lost there because of smart contract bugs. So, a big exchange can just collapse like a deck of cards, house of cards, if this happens. Or when they update the code, then can introduce new errors into these exchanges. Or if they hire developers, or the original developers can, they can steal tokens, or they can mint tokens themselves, or they can do these sort of things if it's allowed, right? And they have access to the wallet, the main wallet, then they can do many things that will result you with a loss, right? So one very important function that I would like to talk about is the migrator function in the master chef, which is SushiSwap, I believe, code. The migrator is used so that they can move the liquidity pool tokens from one pool, one version to another. So, for example, PancakeSwap didn't have this code, so that's why some liquidity pool tokens are still operating on PancakeSwap version 1, because they didn't have the migrator function enabled. But I would say it's good that they didn't have it, because this migrator function can be used to steal all the liquidity pools. So they can take the tokens which are there, put them in their own wallet, and then stake your money. So reviewing the exchange by third parties, it's important. Other issues can be deposit fee or withdrawal fee. Like, imagine that you're farming a token. This happened. This is not something I made up. And then they just set the withdrawal fee to 100%, so that you cannot withdraw your token anymore, right? So it has to stay there, and then they started minting their tokens, which they were able to sell, but you weren't. So if there is a way to scam people, someone is already working on how to do that. Just be mindful of this. If there is a withdrawal fee, or they can change the withdrawal fee, they can take your money, basically. Or multipliers. So multipliers are the allocation of the reward tokens, right? And this can change because new pools are being added. They want to exchange multiple tokens, right? So when they are doing that, then for example, that you're farming a token, you have 100% APR and everything is fine, and you're already planning your vacation house that you will buy in a few years for this, and then they introduce new pools and your APR drops to the fraction of what it was before. Fortunately, this can happen also. Also, it matters which blockchain you are operating on, and I have gas written here 4 times because gas is a huge issue. If you are now farming on the Ethereum network, you are pretty much screwed. If you have to, you know, place LP tokens into a pool, allow the exchange to take your tokens from your wallet. These things, there's like 3 or 4 transactions that you have to approve to basically to do, for example, compounding, right? Which all of them is taking gas, and that can add up very quickly, and you basically lose your money when doing that. So if you're farming on the Ethereum network, you don't want to compound like $100 because you're just gonna spend that on gas when you're doing that. Gas for arbitration, it's not for the farmers, it's for the people who are providing arbitration. That can be problematic because if that is costly, the only thing they can do is use more money for beyond arbitration. But if the total value locked is low, then the arbitration might not happen, which means that the price of the asset might be wrong. So smaller farms can be problematic because they will not get arbitration, and then suddenly the token that you have in it might be at the wrong price. Or the pegging, right? That's pegging is when for example, for stable coins like USDC, BUSD, Tether, these sort of tokens, they are always supposed to cost $1, but sometimes they are not. If we would look up Tether's price, then we could see that it's 99 cents, for example. And the reason for that is because the pegging for the $1, minting new tokens and doing these sort of things, they cost money. So they don't do it unless it's at above a certain limit. And someone has to ultimately pay for this. So same for bridging. It could be that suddenly the same token costs a different amount of money on 2 blockchains because it is originally on one blockchain, but on another one they don't automatically bridge the token because the price for the bridging is very expensive, or that your blockchain is just slow, like Ethereum, where you have to wait maybe 30 minutes to get a transaction through, and then compounding would take 3 or 4 transactions, and you suddenly have to wait 1.5 hours for doing that. So it's just if you want my opinion, just get off the Ethereum chain. Stop using it. It's worth. Or in case of Solana, like they had an error where the entire chain just stopped for hours and nobody could access their money. So of course that can happen, and it would be a problematic because what happens in the meantime. You have a stable coin, for example, well, not a stable coin is not a good. Actually, imagine that you have Ethereum and the stable coin in a liquidity pool, right? And the price of Ethereum changes, and while the blockchain is stopped, this price is not getting updated. So you cannot access your tokens and so on, and many issues with that. So hopefully that doesn't happen with Solana anymore, because otherwise it might be a really good blockchain. Let's talk a little bit about stablecoin farming. So stablecoin farming is when you have, for example, BUSD and USDC in a liquidity pool, and whoever wants to use one token or the other might exchange it. So they put in $1, get $1 out. And you have these 2 tokens and you provide it as a liquidity pool, right? Basically, your risks are much less, but the yield is typically much less because otherwise everyone would be doing this. So, but depending on which exchange you're operating on, this can be still like 10-20%, which means that if this stays this way for the upcoming years, when we can all retire if we are just doing this. And I'm not even kidding. Do a calculation with 20% yearly APR and put away, for example, $100 every month. Do this for 20 years and suddenly we are sitting on a $1 million when you can retire in 20 years. 20 years sounds like a lot of time, but if you are, for example, 20 years old and you can retire at 40 years, we will see, well, where DeFi is leading. 20% yield in the modern world with banking is very good. So we should all take that, right? But only if you are doing it at an exchange, because we talked about the MasterChef migrator, which, for example, steals your coin. So, you know, if you just go into an exchange without any sort of research and everything, then all your money might be lost, right? Or you buy a stablecoin, which is then fails, basically. So a lot of people are talking about Tether failing. If that happens and, you know, you have stablecoins in the Tether, grouped up with Tether, that can be really problematic. So, well, for example, you don't want to take this risk. You can take, for example, one type of stablecoin, for example, USDC, which USDC exists on Ethereum network and also on the Binance Smart Chain. And when you bridge to the Ethereum network, it's when you bridge to the Binance Smart Chain, it becomes like it is typically called the same way, but when you bridge these two tokens to a third network like the Harmony network, then you have two different types of USDC token, and you can pair these up to get them exchanged. Actually, it might be the best way of stablecoin farming, because you're only using one type of stablecoin. So this can be a good way of just holding one type of token bridged and still making a lot of money about it. So just think about it. About the farming token price going to zero, I took a typical, you know, one of these shitcoins from the Binance Smart Chain called Ramen Swap, and this is the price of Ramen Swap on CoinMarketCap. As you can see, when it was introduced to CoinMarketCap, the price of the token was $32. And we will look at the exchange in just a second, but what happened is in 1 month time, the price of this token went from $32 to less than $4, and right now it's traded at 2.2 cents. So this is why you have to be mindful about exchanges, right? This is the farm that I was talking about. I haven't used this farm. It's just an after what happened report. So it has 3 liquidity pools available for farming. Their own token paired up with BNB, their own token paired up with BUSD, and BUSD and BNB. The APR for this is 27%, which is it's acceptable, I would say. So if you are in this farm, which there is $39,000 of liquidity, then you get 27% after this. Basically, once you place these 2 tokens, you get this farming token at 2.2 cents. You can sell it immediately, right? But however, what happened is, and there will be much more liquidity in this token, for example, yeah, you see $72,000, and probably when the price of it was $32, this total liquidity was in the millions of dollars, I would say. There could be like $100 million liquidity in this. And the APR might have been something very similar, you know, could be even higher. And everyone who bought here and locked up their tokens, what happened with it is they lost their money basically, because they bought this ramen token and they bought it at $32, right? And once the farming really started, the price of the token went down to, you know, within a few days, went down to almost zero, right? And it stays there, and this is not going to recover. It's not like, oh, everyone will just jump into this farm and then it will suddenly will be much better than this. These things don't happen usually, because why would it happen? Do you want to buy this token? Do you think most of the people will buy this token? It's a high risk. It already crashed once. How do you, and it's being minted like crazy. So even here, the price didn't bottom out. So the only thing which is keeping up this price is the APR. So if the liquidity starts decreasing, the APR decreases with it, and it's like a vicious circle which ends up in you losing money. So you bought it at 32 and now it's worth 2 cents. Your money is gone basically. Sorry about it. So these sort of farms pop up on a daily basis, right? Because of the amount of effort that it takes to launch a farm. This is a carbon copy of PancakeSwap. You know, they didn't even change the icon. They changed the icon, you know, of the token, and but otherwise it's a carbon copy of an earlier version of PancakeSwap, and you know, they have an audit. And does it mean anything? Oh, actually, logical issue. Anyway, so they copy a website, change a few things, launch a new farm. The farming token is set at a certain price. You know, when they create the initial liquidity pool, they set the price. Start minting the tokens. The APR is decided based on the price of the farming token. Everyone buys the farming token, and then the price crashes down to zero. And this happens, you know, every now and then they launch it. It's every few days a new farm pops up, and this happens with it. So you should do your research, see how long a farm has been operational, and only jump in if it makes sense to you. And there are a few farms which are by design going to increase in price. For example, there are a few decentralized exchanges which burn part of their exchange fee, which will result that you know, the price of the token cannot go below a certain amount, because then the exchange fees are just gonna get burned, and then that buys the farming token. So there are exchanges who don't do this, but many do, because it's low effort to launch it, and there is a lot of money in it, because those if you have $100 million in the total value locked, and you sell the tokens that you got as a developer, you can make a lot of money with this, and then next week you make a new exchange. So this has been the Shitcoin Detective. I hope you enjoyed this video, taking a look at some problems with the DeFi farming. I hope you liked the video. If you would do that, then give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Take care everyone, and happy farming.